Welcome to Outdrive, folks. I'm your host, Cliff Callis, and each week I'm bringing you actionable marketing insights you can apply to reach, connect with, and convert rural American consumers. Outdrive is powered by Callis, a full-service advertising agency with a focus on marketing rural America. Callis offers a wide range of integrated marketing services, including website development, search engine marketing, social media, video, and digital. We develop strategic and creative campaigns to build your brand and your business, and you can learn more about us at ecallis.com. Now join me in the front seat as we head out on the road to success. Let's go. Hey folks, welcome to Outdrive. We've got another great story to share with you today about life and work in rural America. As we continue our series on women in agriculture, we have a guest today who promotes one of my favorite products, wine. Our guest is Annette Alden, and since 2016, Annette has been the marketing director for Missouri Wines, an organization that promotes the wineries that grow the grapes and make the wine right here in Missouri. You know, Missouri has a rich history with wine that dates back into the 1800s, and with approximately 130 wineries in Missouri that support 28,000 jobs, we have a lot to cover today as we learn more about this unique side of Missouri agriculture and the woman who helps promote it. Welcome to Outdrive, Annette.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
I'm excited for you to be here as well, and excited to talk about all the different things that we have kind of on our agenda for today. Certainly, I want to talk about wine and grape marketing in Missouri. That's a hot topic right now, especially leading up to the state fair. And so I want to get into that a little bit. Your role there, certainly want to talk about your role in agriculture. But before we jump into those things, would you mind to tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Well, I am the marketing director at the Missouri Wine Team in Jefferson City. But originally, I'm from Bowling Green, Missouri. I was raised on a small cattle farm. Growing up, I was active in 4-H and FFA. Eventually, I studied ag business at Mizzou. But after college, I moved to Indiana to work for Crow's Hybrids, which later became Channel Seed. After that, I moved to Omaha. I worked for an advertising agency there on crop protection products. And finally, in 2015, I was able to make my way back home to Missouri, and I've been in this role since 2016.
Well, you do a fantastic job of telling the wine and grape story for Missouri. I want to give you kudos for that. And you have a wonderful background for what it is that you're doing. Tell us just a little bit about growing up on a family farm. What's that like for people who maybe are not familiar with it?
Sure. Well, it's, a different thing every single day. We had a small cattle operation, and I was the youngest of three girls, and somehow I always ended up being the one to help dad, whether it was learning to weld or sort calves or help something with the baler, but I really wouldn't have it any other way looking back.
It's a great way to grow up, isn't it?
It is.
So when did you first realize you had an interest in marketing?
Probably my senior year of high school. I was on our FFA chapter's state winning egg sales team. And we had to really develop the messaging for the product that we were marketing. And it really helped me think about how to position a product to help it sell, how to talk to people about it. And I really enjoyed it and found myself leaning in towards classes that taught me more about that field in college.
So going through Mizzou and studying ag business, was there any direction that you felt like you were going to take your career at that point?
I thought I was going to be in sales, to be honest. And I even studied some international agriculture. I studied abroad in England and did part of an internship in Guatemala. And I was really open to many different opportunities. But after college, a marketing position is really where my heart landed. And that's where I went to work for Channel Seed after college.
So how did the opportunity to join the wine board come about?
Well, that's interesting. My husband found the position actually. One morning I was getting ready and he said, "Hey, I think I found the perfect job for you." And I said, "What? What is it?" So he started telling me about it and he's like, "Well, they're looking for someone to work on their brand and their website and their events." And I was like, "Well, okay. Actually, I've done all of those things. I think this would be perfect." And sent him an application and had a few interviews and here I am.
7 years later.
Yeah, 7 years later.
So tell us a little bit about the Wine and Grape Board of Missouri.
Yeah, so the Missouri Wine and Grape Board is a government appointed board that was established in the 1980s to really help promote the industry. We have representatives from all across the wine industry in Missouri on that board, and our job is to help promote and drive traffic to Missouri's wineries.
So many people may not know or realize that Missouri has a history in the wine industry that goes back, what, a couple hundred years?
It does, yeah. So the roots of our wine industry date back to the 1830s in Herman, and the German Settlement Society of Philadelphia actually had really big dreams for the town. Initially, they thought they could plant some row crops, but after realizing it was a bit too rocky, they encouraged everyone to plant grapes. And that incentive worked because, about 10, 20 years later, there were about 60 wineries in town and they were making about 10,000 gallons. And they were kind of taking the country by storm for wine production. In the 1870s, we actually played a part in helping save the French wine industry. They were struggling with a pest known as phylloxera, and it was really destroying their vines. And it was our team, with our state entomologist and a few other leaders, that discovered that our native grapes were resistant to that pest and helped ship cuttings there. So Missouri is really responsible for helping save the French. But later on, and by the late 1800s, there were other wine regions in St. James and St. Genevieve, and we had over 100 wineries that were making about 2 million gallons of grapes and being recognized on an international level for their quality. But as you guys know, prohibition dealt us a tough hand in 1919 and nearly killed our industry. And even though it was repealed just 13 years later, we didn't have a winery open until 1965 in Herman with Stonehill. And our wine industry continued to slowly grow after that. In 1980, Augusta was actually recognized as the first American viticultural area, or AVA, even before Napa. And some of our leaders at the time had the foresight to petition for a state tax to help provide funds to promote our industry, which is what helped shape the Wine and Grape Board.
How many wineries and grape growers are there currently in the state of Missouri?
Yeah, so we have 129 wineries, but I've spoken to a few others just in the last couple of weeks that will hopefully be submitting their paperwork soon. So we look forward to that number growing. And we have about 425 independent grape growers that grow about 1,800 acres of grapes in the state.
That's awesome. I wonder if people realize how big of an industry it has become.
No, people really don't realize how many wineries they are. They may know of a few, or they've seen a few acres of grapes when they drive down 94, but they probably don't realize how widespread our industry is.
So as I think about the diverse, climate in the state, what types of grapes thrive best in our climate?
Yeah, so we primarily grow Native American grapes and hybrid grape varietals. These varieties really do better in our hot, humid climates and our extreme cold temperatures, much better than the vinifera varieties that you've probably heard of. So, for example, Norton is our state grape. It is a native grape, whereas Vignoles, which is our most popular white grape, is actually a hybrid, meaning it's a cross between two different grapes, kind of like what you'd see in tomatoes, where the breeders are going to cross pollinate those two varieties in hopes that they can have an offspring with the best features of each of the two parents.
So has there been a lot of that in the wine industry? Because, in agriculture in general, seed genetics has altered really the landscape for Missouri. Is that true in the wine industry as well?
Well, our grapes are a little bit different than traditional row crops. We use a lot of different technology to produce our wines, but our grapes don't have the genetic traits like what the seed corn or soybeans do. So we're not quite there yet. I don't know if we'll get there, but we do have a lot of hybrid grapes that are grown here in the Midwest.
So what are the hot or trending wines right now?
Great question. Well, sparkling has always been something that people gravitate to, but a lot of rosés are enjoyed during the summer. And something that's pretty unique right now in the Midwest is canned wines. Wineries are producing wines in alternative packaging. They want to make it easier to enjoy wine on the go, whether you're outside at a barbecue or you're going camping, to take a corkscrew. So wines in a can are something that are popping up here and there across wine country.
Now, is that like internationally as well, or is that something that's just happened in Missouri?
No, there's canned wines all across the US. Internationally, you'll see some of those as well.
Very cool. Very cool. So you mentioned cans, and that's part of packaging. And when I think about packaging, I think about labeling. How important is it to sales to have, I don't know, I'll say proper labeling, but how important is labeling for wine?
Yeah, a label is very important. I like to think of a label as a first impression or a handshake. It's going to introduce you to the wine. You're going to learn so much about that wine from that introduction, whether it's the producer, the grapes or varieties that are used, the vintage or the year that the grapes were harvested, what region it's from, other things like even the alcohol level are on the label. And a lot of wineries have a back label that you can garner even more information, maybe like the wine's sweetness level or even suggested food pairings. We actually even host a competition that helps recognize the best wine labels in Missouri.
So you just had that competition, what, in the last month or so? Tell us a little bit about that.
We did, yes. It's the Missouri Governor's Cup wine competition. And each year we invite all of the state's wineries to compete for that honor that recognizes the best wine in the state. We bring in experts from around the country to serve as judges. And over the course of 3 days, they taste through the wines. It is a blind competition, so they don't actually see which wine they're tasting. All of the bottles are kept in a separate room and they're only presented with a glass. Then they award each of those wines a medal, and they are recognized for the best wines of each category. And those best of class wines compete for the Governor's Cup. And this year, Stonehill Winery was honored with the Governor's Cup for their 2020 Old Vine Reserve Norton, which is pretty unique because the grapes used to produce that wine are actually pre-prohibition, dating back to about 1865. They only have a few acres that they produce a few barrels each year. So this is a pretty unique wine. So if you get the chance to try it, I highly suggest that you take up that opportunity.
So is that in bountiful supply where you'll be able to find it anywhere, or is there going to be a select distribution on that?
I think it's going to be limited distribution. You might have to go to the winery or order it online.
None of it at the state fair?
I think we might have a few of it at the state fair. So if you're there, come by and see us.
Okay, get there early, folks. It's going to go fast. You mentioned labeling and packaging, and it sounds like there's a lot of science involved in the design and the copy for the labels. Is that something that you at Missouri Wines, do you help the wineries with that?
We don't per se provide them direction on what to put on their label, but we do conduct research that indicates what consumers are looking for, how they make their buying decisions, what's important to them, what they look for, and we do try to share that information with our wineries to help them produce the best labels and provide all the information that's going to promote sales for them.
Any type, just a couple of key insights from some of the consumer research you've done most recently that come to mind?
They want to be confident that they're going to enjoy the wine that they like. So putting information on there about the style of wine, from the sweetness to, what the food pairing would be best to go with it. All of that information will help make that decision, because if you're in a grocery store looking at a bottle of wine and no one's there to tell you about it, you need to tell that story and to make that description on the back of the label for them.
And makes a lot of sense. So, from a marketing standpoint, what other kinds of things do you do to help wineries market their products?
Yeah, we use a lot of different avenues to promote our wines, ranging from digital advertising with platforms like Pandora Radio. We also use social media, so you'll see a lot of content produced by us on Facebook and Instagram. We've even worked with a few influencers where we've actually shared wine with them or invited them to Missouri wine country. We do have more traditional partnerships with our friends at Missouri Pork, Missouri Beef Council, where we actually pair wines with those products. We've worked with Missouri Corn and Soybean on wine trail events, with Midwest Dairy to pair wine and cheese, even Missouri Tourism to showcase our wines in other regions of the country and internationally. But I think some of the best ways to reach our audience is to let them try the wine for themselves. That's where we have the most impact. So we often provide samples or lead educational classes so they can experience that firsthand.
I've been to a few of those events, and you're absolutely right. That is a great way to try new wines. And of course, you guys are always really good about asking what kind of wines we like and then suggesting things that you think that we're going to really enjoy. What are some maybe can't miss events that wine lovers might put on their calendar for the next upcoming season?
Yeah, the fall is a great time to visit Missouri wine country. And so many of our wineries host their individual harvest celebrations, but there's some great festivals too. Independence and Corked near Kansas City will be on September 9th. Carrollton is hosting a wine walk on September 16th, but other regions like St. James or Herman will have their own Oktoberfest celebrations. And you can always look to our calendar on MissouriWine.org for upcoming events that are close to you.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I was just going to ask if somebody wanted to find out more where they're going. So you're obviously reading my mind. You mentioned social media. Which platforms can we find Missouri Wines on?
You'll see us mostly on Instagram, Facebook, and here and there on TikTok.
Okay. So we're recording this late July. Missouri State Fair is coming up in a couple of weeks, and Missouri Wines does a great job of promoting the various wineries from around the state and the wines at the wine tent at the fair and other locations. Talk about what's up ahead for the state fair for Missouri Wines.
Yeah, the state fair is one of my favorite times of the year. It is another one of our great partnerships. We work pretty closely with their team throughout the year to ensure there's multiple opportunities to enjoy wine when you're on the fairgrounds. So we host Wine 101 classes at the wine tent. And in that class, participants will get to sample 5 different wines paired with cheese and chocolate, thanks to our sponsor, Midwest Dairy. And the wine tent is such a great opportunity. You can sample wine side by side from across the state and get a flight, which is a unique opportunity that you really can't find anywhere else. There's also an event with the Missouri Travel Alliance. It's a trade show that'll be on August 17th. And we can sample wine in the afternoon there and see a lot of the great other tourism venues across the state. And be sure to follow the Missouri State Fair on social media and look for our logo hidden around the fairgrounds. If you pay attention to their social media, and you can win tickets if you find that logo throughout the fair.
Cool. Well, the wine tent for us at our advertising agency it's one of the traditions that we really enjoy. We've been fortunate to work with the state fair for a long time to help tell their story and attract fairgoers to Sedalia to attend the fair. And so our employees work hard, throughout the year. And so by the time we get to the fair, our work is pretty much done. It's time to enjoy. And so, one of our traditions every year is opening day at the wine tent in the afternoon prior to the parade. Clients drop by sometimes, friends and family, and it's really one of our traditions. I know that you've been going to the fair for several years, and the theme for this year's fair is where traditions grow. So what would be a couple of your traditions, Annette?
Absolutely. We have been going to the fair for so many years. I was an intern with the University of Missouri back in the day and helped with the state fair. So I always love to go back and try the Tiger Stripe ice cream at the Mizzou building. We always go and get ice cream there, but I also like to watch the cattle shows. So my in-laws raise shorthorns and goats, so going and watching his family show is something that's become a tradition for us as well. And I hope that my kids will take part in that in the future.
Oh, those are fun. They really are. And it's so gratifying to see the hard work that the kids are putting into those shows. So for somebody who's been going to the state fair for many years, what would you say to somebody who said to you, "Hey, I've never been to the state fair. Why should I go?"
Wow, it is such a unique opportunity to see agriculture firsthand, whether that's looking at some of the tractors or equipment that are on display, seeing the livestock. I always enjoy seeing the people that have never seen a cow up close and they want to know, can I pet your cow? Or, go to the petting zoo and see some of the smaller animals up close. It's just a really unique opportunity, but also there's some fun opportunities like the concerts.
That's a great pitch. Thank you very much. As a woman working in agriculture, how do you see your role? Do you see it as a responsibility to kind of set a role model for today's youth?
I do. My role is pretty unique. What's that old adage? Find a job you enjoy and you'll never work a day in your life. Well, I think I found it. Some days like today, I get to be a voice for our industry, which I'm pretty proud of that fact. Other days, I'm working to connect wineries with opportunities to showcase their products, like at the historic city market. I really hope that at the end of the day, I can make an impact for these small businesses and maybe pave the way for other females who maybe want to follow in a similar footsteps or similar path.
So, what would you say to a young lady that was considering pursuing a career in agriculture?
I would say there are so many options for you, whether it be traditional production agriculture or maybe it's marketing and communications. There's so many amazing females in leadership, both in traditional ag, much like our director of agriculture. But there's other unique avenues. So maybe if you don't see a place for yourself in traditional row crop or with livestock, there's other opportunities with specialty crops like growing grapes. At career fairs, I never heard anything about a wine board, and I'm so thankful that I found this position. And I'm just really proud to work with other female leaders and to help tell their story.
We're proud of you as well. I do have one question that comes to mind because, growing up on a family farm, at that time, I think the wine industry was really just kind of getting started or restarted, down in the Herman area. And I never thought about, maybe having a winery. But as I've gotten old, and of course, I have a greater appreciation for wine and winemaking, if a person was going to try to establish a winery or start making wine, what kind of advice would you give to them?
Well, I would say learn all that you can before you start. And we have some great resources for that. We partner with the University of Missouri on the Grape and Wine Institute, or GWI. And we have some great resources there with our state viticulturalists and our state enologists that can help look at the landscape, at the ground that you have, help you with soil testing and determine is your soil right for a particular type of grape, and help you select which grape you should plant. Look at the slope of the land and the how the water drains and how you should lay out your vineyard. And then we have an enology team that can help you determine what equipment you might need for the actual wine production and provide advice once you actually start making wine about how to improve its quality. So do a lot of research, but there's a lot of great people out there in our wine industry that want to help see other wineries succeed, because it's great to see our industry grow.
So could you establish winemaking without having your own land?
Yes, you can. So there's a lot of, like I said, there's about 425 independent grape growers that are not affiliated with a winery that are selling their grapes to people who want to process those. So on the GWI website, they actually have, it's kind of like Craigslist for grapes. And so if you're looking to buy grapes, you can put a post saying, I'm looking for, Vigneul or Chardonnay, for example. Or there's people who make posts saying, I have Chambourcin grapes available for purchase. So yes, you can buy grapes to make wine.
And do a lot of wineries do that?
You'll see a lot of wineries that grow some grapes that maybe not all that they need, and so they do purchase grapes.
No. So I assume that they're sort of almost creating it's all custom, right? But almost creating some new types of varieties. Do they do that?
Yeah, the university is doing some research on new grape varieties all the time, seeing what's going to do well, what can stand up to our climate or some of the pest issues that we have in Missouri. And there's a lot of wineries that partner with the university to put in those test blocks of grapes and or do their own experimenting to see what new grape varieties are going to work.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, podcast of our or the focus of our podcast is marketing to rural America. And when I say the words rural America, what does that mean to you?
Wow, that's where I came from. But when I think about, wine in rural America, I think it's something that's probably often overlooked. When you think about it from an agritourism aspect, it's pretty unique. It's a special experience to be able to visit a location where the product is grown, harvested, processed, packaged, and you can even purchase or sample that product. So it's pretty unique when it comes to other farms. But like other family farming operations, so many of our wineries are multi generational. They're being run now by the second or even third generation. And I really hope that that will continue because it's something that makes our rural landscape in Missouri unique.
Absolutely. Annette, I've really enjoyed visiting with you today and learning more about the wine industry in Missouri. What else would you like to share with our Outdrive audience today that you think they might find interesting?
Well, there is a new opportunity that we have called Rewards Uncorked. It is our loyalty program that rewards users for visiting Missouri wineries. They can check in with their phone when they arrive at a winery, and they can earn points and then redeem those points for swag or even tickets to experiences in Missouri wine country. And you can sign up at missouriwine.org.
I'll make a note of that. Very cool. Hey, Annette, I appreciate you spending part of your morning with us today. I want to thank you on behalf of wine drinkers for everything that you do to help tell the story of Missouri wines.
Well, thank you, and thanks for drinking local.
Thank you. Folks, thanks for listening to Outdrive. I hope you've enjoyed our visit today with Annette Alden, Marketing Director for Missouri Wines. Come back again next week and I'll take you down the roads of rural America where it's heaven on earth.
Thanks for taking a ride with us on Outdrive. This episode is complete, so head on over to ecallis.com for more insight you can apply to help drive your business growth. And be sure to sign up for our free monthly e-letter, Outthink, for even more helpful content about marketing to rural America. Have a great day and keep on driving.